able to record the session? Oh, wait. Hold on. It's live streaming.
Okay. Recording may be a little challenging. My computer has been like, I don't know, struggling when I'm trying to do multiple things.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, I think it's live streaming. Awesome.
Okay.
When you're ready, I'm gonna off my camera.
Okay.
No, when you're ready, I can let them in.
Challenging. My computer has been. Oh no, you have to mute your mic.
Sorry.
Struggling when I'm trying to.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, all the best, Anya.
Thank you.
Anything?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to today's session. Today, we are going to explore how to build a custom GPT for your work. Not sure how many of you have tried that before, but really appreciate the time you're taking today to join us. We're gonna give people to stream in and get set up. So just maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes. So if you'd like to grab some water, maybe snacks, now is the time. And then we'll begin shortly. How was the week for everybody? Was it intense? Are you looking forward to the weekend? Is it a good Friday so far? You can give me a thumbs up. It's a good Friday. Or even if you're looking forward to the weekend. Okay. Looks like we have quite a lot of people in the room. Thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. And I'm glad to hear that today is going well, or maybe the week has been good, or maybe you're looking forward, or maybe it's all three. So we are going to begin. There might be some other people who will stream in a little later, but for today, we are going to explore how to unlock like a little bit of AI efficiency, how to like begin building a custom GPT for your work life. So I'll go through all of these and we'll also look at a little bit of a demo section later. And to get started, I know some of you are already on Menti. I saw the thumbs up, but I would love it if you get a device of your own. Maybe it's your phone, maybe it's a desktop, or maybe an iPad, or maybe a tablet. Go to menti.com and use the code 27014465. Go to menti.com and use the code 27014465. All right, I see some thumbs up. So if you're already on Menti, give me that thumbs up so I know you're there, and that will give me a sense of yeah, we're ready, and I'd like you to join, mostly because as much as I share a lot of these things, a lot of it can be quite technical, and I'd really want to know how to shape this so in the context of your own work, your own life, your where you are in terms of your capabilities and where you're heading towards, so I can customize. Thank you, lots of thumbs ups. Yeah, so I can customize parts of this for you. So there'll be sections later where you can share your experiences and add into the group conversation, and that will be really, really lovely. So it's going to be an interactive session. All right, let us begin. So today's agenda is mostly spotting automation opportunities, especially like in the format for what is required for custom GPT. And once you have it, then we can explore, sorry, I did not put them in a separate line, like explore different custom GPTs, and also look at the custom GPTs that are available on the market if you are new to that. and then we'll look at how you can craft one and use them for practical applications, depending on what you might be thinking about. And join in the chat, and we'll explore all of these ideas together. So for today's workshop, obviously, AI concept, sometimes it can be new or challenging. And so stay open and stay curious. And we are welcoming you to share your stories as part of this journey. It's okay if you're just beginning your journey in automations or AI. And it's okay if you have some experiences as well. We all come from different perspectives. And I think it's beautiful because that also gets to shape our journey and we get to learn more. Our knowledge is richer because of the collective wisdom in this room. So share your stories. And also when people share, I would love it if you give them respect and kindness, because all of our situation would be a little different. And that's where we have lived experience. And also engage actively, like follow your curiosity and engage to make this as valuable for you as possible. So a little bit about me before we dive in. I see some familiar faces, so hi to those. And some of you are new. My name is Anya. I'm from Hatch Media House. We're a digital design and marketing agency. We partner with organizations, both big and small, and navigate the digital journey with them to help them amplify their presence and help them create resonance within their communities. So there's different types of work we've been doing. So it's not just like digital marketing, but sometimes we're exploring something broader than that. So we come with that experience of what we're seeing on the ground with Media House and how you can take away some of the learnings that we've had and apply it for your own work, for your own organization, maybe for your own business, and see how you can level up in that process. Just to get a sense of where we are in the room today, how familiar are you with AI tools like ChatGPT? Today, our primary tool will be ChatGPT. We're going to be creating custom GPT. I just want to get a sense, and it's okay that you're just beginning, or maybe you've used it a little bit. If you're not yet on Menti to participate in this, go to menti.com and use the code 27014465. And that's cool. We are close to having an even split. There are some who've used it a few times. There are some who use it regularly. So one who've never used it, welcome. I'm sure all of us are eager to help you explore. Okay, so yeah, for the one person who voted, I've never used it, and if you identify maybe you haven't given it a vote yet, at any point, don't feel like you can't ask questions. Let's say that I'm going a little faster, or maybe I've started with a screen later during a demo or maybe something. You can always ask in the chat, what is that, or what does it do, or tell me more about this. I'll be able to slow down and share more, so don't be afraid to ask questions. Thank you everybody for sharing. Okay, so good mix. You've generally tried it. And so I guess being able to create a custom GPT is being able to level up a little bit more. Maybe you might have even tried it. So yes, I'm curious if you've ever tried using a custom GPT. Not that you have to make it yourself, but maybe you found something on ChatGPT's explore page. Has anyone tried using a custom GPT? And if you have, what did you use it for? Or maybe you've seen a video and you've been meaning to try something, or maybe you saw it somewhere else, you read something and you've been meaning to try it. So I'd be curious to hear what you've tried or been meaning to try. And that will give me sort of like a sense of the headspace you're at. Okay, not yet, not yet. Okay, so today could be fun and interesting and exciting. No, so generally no. Are there any yes in the room? Like, have you tried ChatGPT? Yes, YouTube video summarizer. Awesome. I'm going to assume that you put in a YouTube video link and then it summarizes. Is that right? Yeah, and then yes, for copywriting sample. Nice. So I guess that's going to help you with some different types of copywriting tasks that you have, for maybe different types of messaging that needs to go out. Nice. Okay. If anybody else has to share, I'll just wait a moment before we go on to the next screen. Research. Cool. For the one who said research, what type of research did you use it for? And what was the custom GPT's role in it? Was it supposed to gather information or was it supposed to analyze information? You can put it in the Zoom chat or respond again on Menti if there's an option. Or you can unmute and speak. Okay. While you do that, I'm going to go to the next slide. And so you can see all from this itself, like the 3 different use cases are so different from each other. Like research is so different from copywriting, and YouTube Summarizer is kind of like a little bit of learning or maybe a little bit of research as well. So it swings. Oh, sorry, there was one more response here. To analyze information and prepare speeches. Okay, cool. That's interesting. Yes, someone asked me menti.com. That's right. Go to menti.com if you are not yet on Menti and use the code 27014465. That's where we are chatting, and that's where you get to shape some of the learnings that we're having today. Thank you for joining. Okay, so today we're going to learn, and maybe if you've tried it, this is your opportunity to imagine what you can build and then learn what we're going to do today and try out later. So if you've experimented or maybe you have not yet, maybe put your votes in and I'll know exactly how the room is split up. When I would say general chat GPT, this is the one that you're probably saying, like the big chat that opens up. And some of you mentioned that you are using it regularly. Custom GPT would be like, for example, the YouTube video summarizer, or maybe like for copywriting, that you created yourself. If you have not yet, maybe not yet, but hopefully next week you would have. A specialized GPT would be like, oh yeah, this is something that someone made to do a very specific task, and then you tried it. And then if you have not yet, you can be in the not yet bucket. Just to get a sense of how the room is split. So if you're not on Menti, you can put your votes here. Not yet. Nice. Is anybody able to vote on this or no? Oh, I can see numbers. Okay, cool. General Chat GPT. Lots of people are using General Chat GPT. That is awesome because I feel like, okay, so for some people who may be new, the first step to creating custom GPT is try using and having a Chat GPT for your daily work. And over a period of time, you will explore like what kind of things you've been using it for, and you'll get an idea of what are you repeating over and over and over again. That will give you ideas for what kind of custom GPT you can use to create. So that's there. But you don't have to use it that way. You can straight away jump into a custom GPT, so no worries. Thank you everybody for sharing. Okay, lots of people are using General Chat GPT for daily work. So today we'll go a little bit like more advanced in some of the prompting and being able to craft some of this. And I'll share some ideas. So if you are thinking of any particular use cases, you can drop them in the chat later. Okay, so the power of custom GPTs, which is kind of like I'm going to customize a version of Chat GPT, is essentially what I'm trying to say when I say these. And when I think about custom GPT, it's important to think about why we are recommending some of these. One is obviously if you're, like a small team, or like, entrepreneur starting up, or maybe a solopreneur, or even like an organization that feels at capacity, the AI will be able to help you improve how much the team is capable of doing, because sometimes there's this feeling of there's always so much to do and not enough time. So in this case, here is being able to discern, okay, where is the time where we get our team to put in quality time whether it's creativity or coming up with something that's more human to human connection. And then where is it that we can automate some of the processes? The other thing is, you can have like one account and start from there. So it's pretty low cost, high impact. It's not the same as getting like a consultant or a specialist. And then once you start from one account, you can always scale from there if there's more teams that need it. So you can always like get more seats and get more like a team sort of like ChatGPT thing where you can share some of these resources as you scale. So you don't have to scale, but in the event that you do, all of these can scale well. And so I also, and I brought up like this term earlier when you were voting on some of where your experience is. I said a general chat GPT, and when I say custom GPT, it's also like a custom chat GPT. So I want to sort of clarify the differences between the two before we jump in. I would think of a general chat GPT as, when the screen comes up and then it's blank, and then you maybe asking it to do something, and that something can change wildly. Like for some, it could be like, oh, can you help me with this caption? And then the next day you're like, can you help me analyze these numbers? And then the next day you're like, oh, can you create this project plan? So it's doing so many various different things. And maybe sometimes in that chat thread, you are assigning it a role and saying, oh, you're a specialist copywriter, you are good at this. And, sometimes you're defining those roles. And then sometimes if you need that work again and again, but in a different thread, you have to redefine the role. So that's when you're sort of like, oh yeah, that's a general chat GPT, but it may not necessarily know the nuances or the context of your work or your process, maybe your way of thinking or your way of looking at, some data or arriving at certain output or certain decisions. So you have to fully take the time to shape the context for which you want the output for. And then a custom chat GPT is kind of like a mini specialist. Think of it as a GPT that will take the time to learn. We'll come up. I will share a little bit more about how we can teach it. But it's more or less trained on, your data, following your process, following your likes and your dislikes, and responding to your unique instructions that it's set up to respond to. So if you have a certain way of doing things, or maybe out of all of the different types of output, maybe you're creating social media content, and then maybe in the beginning it was not really looking good until you shape the prompt to arrive at really good, social media captions or social media ideas. So it's about being able to use that repeatedly without feeling like you have to go through the entire process again. So it understands your methods, your likes, your dislikes, your context, your needs, and adapts to how you work, which is why it is pretty cool because you're taking a little bit of a shortcut, right? I'm not repeating the same instructions over and over. So where custom GPT really shines is if you find yourselves repeating the same type of tasks. At first, maybe without AI, maybe you find yourself doing it, but we never actually thought of it as something that we repeat over and over. Or maybe it is that you acknowledge that it repeat over and over. Maybe like every end of month, I need to create a certain type of report. Or maybe every time I need to prepare a certain file to go out in a certain way, example, right? So some of these are repetitive tasks. And so if you have a repeatable task that you need to do, you can get custom GPT to really shine. So here as an example, I'm saying like, maybe you will work in project management or event management. So you have very similar emails to draft in different parts of the project. Or maybe you're generating certain reports with specific formats to follow based on some input that you have, things like that. But here you can also think about it as you have a process that's repetitive. So for those of you who are doing research, maybe you have a set type of input that you have, like, oh, if I'm doing like a competitor report, I'm going to browse their website and look at all of their website content. I'm going to browse Google and see what comes up in Google search. Or maybe I'm going to look at 10 posts from social media and see how it's doing, example. And then you'll collate all of it, and then you'll have some, insights and reporting to do based on that. So maybe you have a set process of what goes in and your process of how you're going to analyze that, based on the information you have and what outcomes you want out of that data. So maybe that process is what you want ChatGPT to repeat, even though maybe the competitor might change. These are all possible. So that's where a ChatGPT becomes sort of like the specialist in the room when you're teaching it a process rather than a certain thing. So let's say you work in a small team, but maybe you don't have like a specialized person to do something very specific. Example, maybe all of you know some form of marketing, but then if you need additional marketing specialist in some particular area, maybe you don't really know, but then to get them consistently, could be either like very time consuming or very like resource heavy, in terms of your team's time, energy, and money. So it can handle being this mini specialist. I wouldn't say like rely on it 100%, but it's a good start. So you can have like a paid ad specialist, or maybe like a technical SEO specialist that's going to help you, or maybe it's going to become like your business consultant when you need to make certain marketing decisions and you're not quite sure how to think through it, for example. Or here in this case, maybe you are working at a little bit of a startup and then you have developers who have like the inside knowledge, but then you can get them to document all of it. And then when customers have questions, you can use ChatGPT to help answer without needing to be technical yourself. So that's where it is super helpful. Again, we went through proprietary methods. And in this case, when you're using a proprietary method, maybe you take maybe you have a custom formula you use to calculate something or to understand something or to analyze something. You put in what is only helpful for you to teach ChatGPT on how to arrive at this. And then don't share too many sensitive things, of course, because it's proprietary. But then you can automate that process. You can codify it. You can make it smarter. You can make it faster. So if you have a very unique way of doing something as part of your work, you can codify it using custom GPT and do it faster. So this this is the general screen for those of you who use ChatGPT, or maybe what you see. And so here on the top left, it says ChatGPT 4.0. That's the model that I'm on. If you are on a paid plan, I think even if you're on a free plan, it's 4.0 at the moment. And then you'll see like, startup prompts in the middle that says, oh, chat, help me with this, help me with that. But where the custom GPTs are is if you select a menu and then click explore on the left side, it will show you this screen which says GPTs. And then so here what they say is create custom versions of ChatGPT that combine instructions, extra knowledge, and any combination of skills, which is, what I shared a little bit right now. So you can see on this screen, this is not live, but we'll go to the live one in just a bit. We can scroll quite a bit, and there's, there's writing, there's productivity, there's research and analysis, there's education, lifestyle, programming. There's quite a lot of different chat GPTs in the out there. So I'm just gonna go to this screen. Give me 1 minute to switch my screens, and we're gonna explore a couple of custom GPTs, and you're gonna tell me in the chat when you see something interesting that you'd like to try. It's okay that we're not the target audience. The point is to see what's possible, right? So give me 1 minute. I'm going to swap my screen. Let me stop sharing. Today's session is from 3 to 5 p.m. Hang on, it says error loading. Let me just Okay, I got it. How do I? Okay, I found it. I found the screen I was supposed to share. Sorry, my bad. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can in the chat. So this is the live. You can see then, this global view on, meaning, this is what everybody pretty much sees. And you can also access this, like this is the main chat GPT. You will see explore on the left. Now, when I click explore, it will bring it here. And here you can see I have some GPTs, so it will say my GPTs, and you can also create here. I think with a free account, you can use custom GPTs, but you may not be able to make them. So if you want to make them, you need to be on a paid plan, if I'm not wrong. So I'm just going to scroll through, put in the chat if you see anything interesting. I'll pick a couple of things to try. So featured, ask the research, maybe. So this talks about, asking what the research is about something specific. This one, I don't know, maybe it's related to some app. Chat PRD for product managers. AI PDF. So maybe it's chatting with a PDF to get something that you want. Write for me. This thing will help you write, I'm presuming. Logo creator will try to help you create a logo. Image generator. So you can see how, it has like who this ChatGPT is by over here, but these are specific ones that are created by ChatGPT itself. I want you to see like how different it is. GPT specialized in generating and refining images. Okay, which one shall we try? Put it in the chat. So we have, some writing things, which is like writing to help you write. We have some productivity things, which is like making diagrams. Consensus. Okay, let's try consensus. There's a pop-up on my screen. Are you still able to see it? Okay, cool. Thank you. Now I'm on consensus. As you can see, it opens with a similar format, and then it says consensus. So it says, ask the research, chat directly with the world's scientific literature, search references, get simple explanations, write articles backed by academic papers. Is sauna good for heart health? Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask in a very curious way, what are the health benefits of bubble tea? Just so we can all drink some bubble tea guilt-free. So then it says it's running an action, and then it wants to talk to consensus, which I'm assuming they have a custom action on the back end. So I will say allow. It's doing its thing. And now it's giving me answers and giving me like references to the paper. Okay, so now I'm just going to be like, look, I need a social media caption about how bubble tea can also be good, but we know it's not always good. Backed by science. The tone is funny, cute, punny. Let's see. Instagram page. So if you notice how I started off with this custom GPT, which was very science heavy, and then I'm shaping the chat to be like, look, I did my science research and now I'm going to get it to help me with something else. And I think honestly, it's quite cute because I didn't give it much context, but it started off like sip, sip, hooray. And it, made some pretty poor puns, but I think it's quite nice. Tea, chewy boba balls. Sorry, I think someone is at the door. Give me one moment. Thank you everybody for waiting, but that gave you a chance to read the caption. What do you all think of the caption? Is this like, are you in a line of work where you could use some science-backed support for some of your research and then transform it to some content? Or maybe something like, for some of your reports, maybe? Is this something that would be useful for you? But you can also see how we used it a little differently from how it's not just this. I can transform the thread because of the nature of ChatGPT, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So I think consensus was pretty cool. I'm going to go back to explore, and I want you to pick one more as we're scrolling down. So this time, does anybody want to make a song? You want a travel guide to some place. You have a therapist, but not an actual therapist. You know what I mean? There is a dating expert. There is flights, hotels, and cars with GPT. I'm not so sure if that is content appropriate, but let's try the deep game. It sounds really interesting. Let's see. Play any story as a character. You decide what to do next. Type visualize to get an image of the current moment of the story. Shall we try? So this is a custom GPT, and you can see how different this is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to say new game. Wants to talk. So it's talking to, something in the back end. So this is custom GPT creating, being linked to something else. What kind of story? Maybe detective, I think. Wow. It really wants me to read a lot. I guess this works if you are, I think it's also a fun group activity. What should we do next? Somebody type in the chat and then I'll give it to ChatGPT. Should we visualize this? This is what they asked me to do, right? Yeah, okay. Let's try that. It's creating an image now. That's pretty cool. Oh, the phone is ringing. Okay, so I will pick up the phone. So that's a fun party game for you, or for, when you're in a group and you get to look at the big TV screen together, and then it's free to use. Let's try to visualize this again. If you're a visual person, you will definitely appreciate the visuals. If you read better, then you will appreciate the writing. And I think at the start, as you saw, we can choose our genre. Do they give options instead of an open-ended question of what will you do next? Let's see, maybe I will ask it for options. Right now, it does not. It will just literally say, what will you do next? So I can choose whatever direction I want it to go to. And you can also see it's chosen a visual style that is continuing from the previous style here. You can see how it's got like this old retro neon vibes. That's same thing going here. Now I will say, can you give me options on what to do next? And notice how it's not breaking character, like it's supposed to be the narrator. So it's saying you're in control of the investigation. And then it's saying, oh, here's some ideas. And I probably would not have thought of some of these, right? So it's nice to do this. So it's kind of cool. This is a really nice, fun one. If any of you want to try, this is called Deep Game. I hope that was fun. We're going to do one final one that from this. And I want to see what should we create. Let's try Video GPT, this one. Okay. Okay. I have a feeling that this AI video maker will ask me to create an account over there, and then the output might be over there. But let's try. Okay, let's create a video. Okay. Primary goal. Okay. I want to promote bubble tea. What should be the primary message? Bubble tea. Who is the target audience? Targeting people who like bubble tea. Well, not very descriptive, am I? What tone or mood? Make it fun, quirky, punny, energetic, poppy. Make it like a quick 20 to 30-second video. Let's see. Is there a specific flavor? What's your favorite flavor of bubble tea in the chat? I'll go with what ChatGPT said earlier. Sip, sip. Hooray! That's number 2. Number 1, durian flavor. New durian flavors to celebrate mooncake. Well, okay, never mind. Just new durian flavors. Okay. So first it's writing a script. So you can tell that it's not skipping a step. What would happen if it didn't have a script, right? And it's also been set up to ask instructions like, oh, what do you want? What do you really want? Because if it directly went to make a video here without clarifying what I wanted, then it's likely that the output would be a little far away from what I'm looking for, assuming that if I really wanted to create an output that I wanted to use for something project. So here's a script. Get ready for a flavor explosion. Introducing our new durian bubble tea. It's smooth, creamy, and packed with a punch of durian goodness that you've been craving. Sip, sip, hooray. Every sip is an adventure, bursting bubbles, dreamy durian, and a whole lot of fun. Wow. Are you durian enough to try it? Come grab yours today and let the sip venture begin. Female voice over. Make the video. Let's go for it. Okay, let's allow. Okay. I wonder if it will play here. Let's try. No, it took me to a new screen. Are you still seeing my screen or are you still on the Chat GPT screen? Can see. Okay. Let's wait for it to load. I'm not sure if you can hear audio. Later you see if you cannot hear audio, I will reshare. Okay, I'm gonna play. Well, I'm just gonna wait to see if everything has loaded below.
Get ready for a flavor explosion. Introducing our new durian bubble tea. It's smooth, creamy, and packed with that punch of durian goodness you've been craving. Sip, sip, hooray! Every sip is an adventure. Bursting bubbles, dreamy durian, and a whole lot of fun. Are you durian enough to try it? Come grab yours today and let the sip venture begin.
Could you hear that? Or were you only able to see that? You can hear it. What did you all think of it? This is obviously their platform. So we have arrived in their platform and they want you to like export it from here, but not bad, right? Like obviously you can change the voiceover a little bit in between or change the background or, you know, like if you really need like filler content in between, it's not at all bad compared to like having to manually do it. This makes it so much faster. And if you have like more input, like maybe like documents prepared for some of your things already, this is even better. So just know that the more you use it, the more they'll ask you to upgrade. So there is probably some element of paying for their service after a while. But if you have somebody else and you want to ideate and give this to that person to create, that's not a bad start. Or maybe, you know, like one or two in between, that's also not a bad start. So as you can see, with just using a custom chat GPT, we were able to do so much. So I'm gonna go back to our content. Give me one moment. I know someone raised your hand. Do you want to put your ask in the chat or maybe like unmute and speak?
Yes, so my question is relating to what you shared just now. I think it's really amazing to see the video. I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about the royalty rights for using such generated assets. Are we able to use it on the public domain?
Good question. I feel like you will have to read the royalty and the licensing for each platform. Like for example, Canva has its own thing and you know Weed probably has its own thing. But I have a feeling the way some of these platforms work is they'll give you the first one or two for free, but then we'll make it like such that you know when you output it, maybe they'll put like a logo. So there is like a little bit of like a watermark. So you get to use that one. And for them, it's free publicity in that sense. And then the other thing that could happen is maybe if you're on a paid plan, you have the licensing to use it and share it. Because the most important thing is think about the use case of if I get an account with Weed as a video editor, it's likely that they are using video stock from somewhere else that is licensed for us to be using for social media and other things. So do definitely spend a little bit of time reading on their particular use case and what the license allows with a free plan and a paid plan for every platform. Even if you are paying for it, you must read it because they will have an upper limit of, you know, like how many, like for example, if I'm using for my website, they will have an upper limit of how many website visitors up to that it's allowed, beyond which they will probably start charging, for example. So think of some of those things as you are navigating these. I hope that answers. It's not a straightforward answer, but this is where ChatGPT is helpful. You can be like, what is the licensing for this? And then give it the link, and then, you know, you can use that to explore. So now that we've explored some of these, and it was, I barely touched scratched the surface, right? As you saw, there were so many things on the explore page. And one for you after this session and this weekend or over the next week, I would love it if you go and try different things that you think might be helpful for you. And two, now that, like you're having sort of like using ChatGPT on a regular basis, and you're also seeing some of these custom GPTs, what do you think would be helpful for you in terms of where a custom GPT can help you the most? So go to menti.com and help rank some of these things so we can sort of get a headspace of, oh yeah, these are the most important or maybe most relevant for you. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's just to get a sense of where the group is at. So if you're not yet on the Menti, go to menti.com and use the code 27014465. And what sort of, where do you think a custom GPT could help you the most? Just a little exercise to help you think through. What I'm also going to be helping you with a little bit today is to help you mentally, even if you may personally not be creating one individual custom GPT today, it will be helpful to think through some of the prompts that I'm going to give you. So as I guide you over the next few things, think a little bit more about your unique use cases or maybe context or what you'd like to get more out of. Lots of administrative tasks, not bad, that's good. Marketing and content creation. Wow, okay, good. Votes are rolling in. Data analysis and reports, administrative tasks, marketing and content creation, personal productivity, customer communication. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. For those of you who are not yet there, go to menti.com and share your preference as to where you think a custom GPT can help you the most. So one thing I want to say is don't feel like you have to build a custom GPT just to get support in any of these areas. There's lots that are actually on the market, as you saw on the explore page, and a lot of them don't really need to be paying in some way. Some of them you can start off pretty small, get scripts to help you with certain things. For example, as we saw, we only need that GPT and pay for the platform if you're planning to use it long term. Otherwise, you can just keep using it to create scripts, right? So there's lots of support here in that sense. So don't feel like you have to make it. But at the same time, when you start using some, or maybe if you're not able to identify certain things, that's when you can think about creating a custom GPT, or maybe when you have a custom proprietary process or your unique way of thinking and doing, or maybe your unique point of view with something, right? So that's where custom GPTs will really shine if you want to create one on your own. So this is helpful later when we try. And so I want you to take a moment and really think about what tasks in your workday are most repetitive. And don't forget the tasks that feel a little invisible, but because we don't actually put them on the calendar, we don't actually name a lot of them necessarily as important, so they're not given attention. But they are things that we're constantly doing, like maybe cataloging some form of information, or maybe like writing emails in a certain way, or maybe preparing reports in a certain way, or maybe doing something else, but that you feel like is routine or repetitive. So I'd like to get you to reflect on that. Take a minute. This is part of the planning and the clarity, because when you're able to identify some of these things, you are like 30 to 40% of the way to clarity in creating a custom GPT when the time is right. So what tasks in your workday are most repetitive for you? I'm going to give you a moment to think about what might fit in here. Answering emails. Yep, I hear you. What else? Data analysis. checking minutes and following up with the people if they have completed their tasks. Sounds like project management in some way, or like team management. Looking at website product listings. Okay. I'm assuming you either work for, some form of e-commerce or something like that, or you're looking at a competitors. So it's something like that happens routinely because they need to be up to date or maybe have the latest things up. Okay. Summarizing read documents, collecting information. Weekly report on the task done for the week and task planned for next week. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Looking for places to eat, planning itineraries. Yeah, super helpful for those two. As you saw, there was one that said like eat, explore, something like that. So I think there are some custom ways to do this. Yeah, so if you're writing, I'll give you a little moment more. Please do share. But as you can see, there are some parts of this that are repetitive and looking for networking events to go. That's cool. Yeah. And we find that sometimes maybe some of it is pleasurable and you do want to do it yourself. But maybe some of it you either want to speed up or do it, like not do it at all if you can help it, or maybe do it in a way that it's not that time consuming. Filing timesheet. Yeah, timesheets probably have a very unique way of being written or, being filled in. So yes, definitely that. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I use it for is I have a bunch of receipts that I need to collate and put in a particular format. So for me, it would be super helpful if I just take a picture of it and upload, and then it collates and automatically like churns out whatever format I need it in. Wouldn't that be so cool? Or maybe I take a picture and upload it to the same custom GPT and it will file it away wherever it needs to be because I have set it up that way. Wouldn't that be so cool? Yeah, the ways we can think of minimizing admin, especially if you're entrepreneurs or doing some of these things. Yeah, so I can see how some of you put in. So, but I'm curious, and is social media not repetitive for some of you, or maybe like marketing and stuff like that? Because I have not seen that necessarily here. The receipts one, oh my God, yes, for claiming. Maybe you can make one after this and you can customize it to the format that your company needs it in. Yeah, summarizing, reading articles, listening to topic updates via audio, that's super cool. Yes, we're constantly all consuming things, but in this day and age, there's so much to consume that we never feel like it's enough. So like there are times when you open something and then you're like, yeah, this is great. I want to spend my time reading it. But there are times when you open a link and then you're like, nope, I just need to know what this is about and I want to get on. And so for those, maybe something that you can put in a link and then get what you want out of it. Right. So there's lots of things. So don't feel like there's any rules to what you need custom GPT to do. Really, the reason why it's called custom is so that it can fit into your life and meet your needs. Okay. So here, if you could build one, based on ideas in the group, or maybe like what you're imagining already because you saw like possibilities, if you could build one special custom GPT to handle one task for you, what would it be? Like, describe it. Like, tell me it will help me do this so I don't have to do what? Anything. It could be super fun. Or it could be super administrative. Either way, think of it as adding value to your life in some way. So if you could have a custom GPT and no rules, dream of whatever you want. So like later you can think about, oh, is this feasible to join or not? I'm sorry, is this feasible to do or not? Those are the steps you can do later. But right now we're going wide and dreaming big. So very divergent kind of thinking. So if you could build one, you're gonna get to build one. So what would that one be? I'm going to assume you're all thinking and typing, so I'll give you a minute. I'm also thinking. Ooh, it's coming in, it's coming in. Exciting. Okay. A GPT to send audio recordings to for all my ideas to collate and organize by project. Monthly marketing planning and research for better engagement. Personalized personal assistant that continues to keep track of open tasks and priority based on urgency deadline to suggest task for the day daily and provide summary by the week. Wow, that's cool. A news reader where it will save specific news sites on topic I like and summarize the articles, read them to me. That's really cool. Help me look for co-working spaces in the area and list out operating hours, price point, presence of power plugs, or maximum time duration there. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah. I would say that, like, very time consuming, quite a lot of these, that if we could help get a custom GPT or another form of automation to help with. Collecting market rates for construction and update automatically. I'm going to assume that's what it meant. Market rates for construction. Interesting. Yeah. Prepare meeting agendas and create avatar to run the meeting. You basically maybe like either not a meeting person or maybe meetings take up too much headspace or energy. Cold calling and get leads. Wow, imagine getting a cold call and not knowing that an AI is calling you. Wow. I love that you all shared like what, like you're dreaming big, right? And I have a feeling, honestly, I have a feeling about 60 to 80% of these are achievable. I think we're a little bit away from like some of it integrating holistically. So we might need to look a little beyond the custom GPT for some of the larger automations. For example, I'll share, I think the GPT to send audio recordings to, and then collate, organize by project. It's possible, but then the GPT needs to be connected to some external actions, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. Monthly marketing planning and research for better engagement. Definitely possible with a custom GPT, especially if, on a monthly basis, you send the data somewhere, or maybe you manually input the data of your own stats, and then, you have like data on like which posts you've put in. So all of this is possible. But if you want it to be like, for example, like custom GPT is chat-based. That means you need to initiate. So if you want it to run automatically on its own, you can leverage ChatGPT to analyze and stuff, but then it needs to live outside of ChatGPT in a different automation software. So a little bit of a difference, because the other one, we're looking at a automation workflow, whereas in custom GPT, we're looking at a process that can be automated. So both are possible. Personalized assistant that continues to keep track of open, priority-based, urgency. Honestly, this one, I'm reading it and I feel like, I don't know which task management you're using. Put it in the chat if you want to share. But some of the task managements, most of it will do, but maybe not the summary. I also feel like this is very achievable if you use something like make.com as a little bit of an automation. We have some other trainings where you can learn about some of this as well in conjunction, even though today is mostly on custom GPT. Newsreader, this one you can definitely do. You can also use Zapier to do this. Co-working spaces, Yes, you can set up, like a custom GPT to help you do this. Collecting market rates, receipts GPT. Input all the tasks and meetings into CRM automatically. Wow, that would be so cool. Yes. Imagine you have a meeting and then there was an AI to collate your notes and then it will send to ChatGPT and then ChatGPT will automatically be like, huh, cool, this project, these tasks, these people, let me add it to the database. That would be cool. I'm sure project managers know the pain of, setting some of the things up in a database for everybody's visibility. It's pretty manual. Yeah, I don't feel like we're there with the cold calling yet, but I feel like, I don't know if you've heard of this software called Clay, and you get pretty close to automating cold leads, but maybe through email and your social inboxes and stuff like that. So I would love that you all have these things in your head. So as we are going forward, maybe you'll see that custom GPT can do a snippet of it or maybe a different version of it. So continue holding this idea and ask questions curiously about how it would apply to this idea later. Okay. Voting. Oh, we're voting. Okay, yes, we're voting. If you are curious, which one did you really, really like? You can vote up. I think that would be pretty fun to see, because sometimes we have our own idea, but then when we see somebody else's idea, you'd be like, oh, I want that in my life. And would be curious to see like, what really was helpful. So I'll just give you one moment. No votes. Okay, never mind. You can just tell me in the chat later which one was super helpful. Okay, so I know a lot of you have been using ChatGPT for work, either sometimes or on a regular basis. And I think this is where, when we are taking this concept of ChatGPT and creating a custom GPT, it's important to acknowledge like what current challenges or limitations have you run into that you have not yet been able to resolve, or maybe it feels like a little bit of a roadblock, because talking about it or knowing what it is can help set you up for success when you're building a custom GPT, because it feels like if you're doing the same ask on ChatGPT multiple times, then it's likely that you are going to convert that action into a custom GPT. So I'm curious, like what challenges or limitations have you faced when using ChatGPT for work so far? I think one of the common ones is maybe it doesn't write as well sometimes. I don't know. Company doesn't allow. Says everything is restricted and confidential. If you use AI, I employed you for what? Oh, that's sad. I hear you. I think this is a bit of a challenge, especially in some larger organizations, or maybe in organizations where you're handling maybe some form of proprietary data, or maybe where they take data seriously. It might not be very easy to get AI buy-in that you could use on company work. But I think it's great that you are learning to upskill, because like I said, I don't think we are in danger of losing our jobs to AI. I think it's just that AI will change what the expectations of the jobs are. So it's great that you're learning. So maybe in this case, I would encourage you to, if company says AI is restricted, try not to use their data. Do something to apply your skill set and use it for like your passion projects or something else. Doesn't give perfect answers. Clients and colleagues nitpick on every mistake. I hear you. Is these answers, is this sort of like for copywriting, or is it about something else? Maybe you can share a little bit more. Lack of comprehensiveness of explanation when telling me the rationale of a new maths equation it formulated. Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. Maybe it's requires a little bit of different type of prompting to get the explanation behind it. Yeah. Because the straightforward answer is typically little short and condensed when it tries to give that. there are too many conditions / requirements. ChatGPT sometimes forgets the conditions set at the start. And after reminding this, then it will miss out another condition. Okay, I hear you. It kind of basically is kind of like the thread becomes too long, or maybe there's too many asks in the thing, and it forgets. Right. I think this is where maybe potentially putting your conditions and requirements and documenting it as a requirement and feeding it to custom GPT might be helpful. So we'll go into that a little bit later. Unable to remember the past GPT feedback weeks ago. I hear you. So this one is really challenging. It cannot, basically its memory is not very long. So like this, like how we saw earlier, even in the same thread, it forgets and you need to say it again. And then it will miss out on something else. So it will keep feeling like it only has space to hold two things, then it drops one, and then it's like, oops, I don't know where it went, kind of a feeling, right? So in that sense, the GPT is not structured to remember. So custom GPTs work better because you can codify some of it and upload it to remember. Concerns about whether the output is fully trustable, whether it did not take into account certain factors, or whether it got whether it hallucinated. So for those of you who heard hallucinate and are not very familiar with it, it is basically where the AI makes up an answer, but it's not actually true. And this is a very, very valid concern. I think with any AI that we are using, definitely double check, definitely put in checks and human oversight. So we have not come so far as to trust it that easily yet. So just take that with a pinch of salt. That doesn't mean that you have to actively be like, aha, hallucinated. You know what I mean? But that also means that you are just assuming that there will be human checks in place at every step so that the output is not, going to skew either the outcomes or maybe put your company or the work in poor light. Sometimes just says, oops, wrong answer, and then gives correct one. Must keep asking further. Cannot store my preferences and context, cannot create logos and many others like videos or even create image. I think one of this is, definitely cannot store context. So custom GPT might be super, super, super helpful for you. But then the other thing, the flip side of it is, word limit. So cannot put whole document in. I think there is still a word limit for custom GPTs. So it's a lot more than a regular chat, I would say that much. But yes, I hope that some of you are able to overcome this, and I'll share a little bit more on how to prepare some of the documents and the context and things like that. Is there anybody else who has any other challenges? Oh, wait just a bit. But essentially, the base of a custom GPT is your custom instructions and your custom information. And you can put all of that context inside documents or as instructions. Instructions has very limited space, so I would recommend documents. And for documents also, there is a limit, if I'm not wrong. But then each document can hold up to 100,000 words, if I'm not wrong. So there's way more space for you to put in more things so that it remembers and references it. Okay, so I'm going to move forward. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Before we go in and create some custom GPTs, I want to share some other ideas, or maybe these already have come up, but just wanted to share, just in case you're thinking about it. I had fun coming up with these. So one is potentially like a customer service reply generator. Maybe you are a small lean team and you need to respond to people. I know it says, like ChatGPT, but maybe you are servicing certain types of clients that need some answers for some specific things. So you can generate, either you have a custom GPT set up so that you can put in all of the knowledge that is important and also like your brand tone and everything. And then every time someone has a question, you can just put in a screenshot of that and get the response and paste it back to the customer. Or maybe it could be that, for select customers, you send them a link to this custom GPT and they use it, depending on how you want to use it. So like you can give like previous customer support emails and maybe even like your company brand tone and style guide, like how to respond to people, and maybe even like documents like what is the customer service about? Like, for example, is it on a certain software or maybe certain service? Are there FAQs? Maybe you can feed some of those documents to the custom GPT. So this could be helpful for small teams that need to maintain a certain type of consistency in communication. Maybe some people are better with words and maybe some people are differently using words. So in that sense, all of your responses are similar. Next is maybe like a project management task generator. So let's say you finished a meeting and you can provide a list of your project steps and you can set it up to automate like creating the task, checklist, next steps, deadlines inside like your software, project management software, or maybe even, like sometimes what I do is I have something called like a scribe GPT. So I'm a very verbal person. What I'll do is after every meeting, I will just take 10 minutes and I will just use the voice recording function and say, this happened, this happened, this happened, and we were talking about this, and we want to do this, and this is what's next. And then it will give me like meeting notes and summaries that I like to structure a certain way. And then I can just copy paste it into wherever I'm sending it to my client. And then obviously tasks, I will have to manually input it into my project management because I did not automate that part. As you can see, there's multiple things happening. One is summarizing, one is creating like a, structured summary of that conversation in a way that I want to structure, and then creating like checklists for tasks and next steps and deadlines. So maybe if you are doing similar types of projects and workflows, you can give it like, documents on how you want, your meeting notes to be structured. Maybe you can even structure, maybe you have like unique codes for your client projects, or maybe like the services that are on hand that you can give it. And maybe like, even like it's an advanced automation with a custom GPT, but you can connect it to do something inside your project management tool of choice. So these are all things that you can go up to. I know some person mentioned this particular idea, so I hope you get excited by it and work towards it. Next one I thought of was like, it's cool, content calendar creator. Maybe, on the back end, I can put in like the previous marketing materials and maybe even like how the company timelines are planned. So I kind of know like which team, or if it's just one person, then it's easier. But sometimes there's a couple of internal teams and stuff that need to go into it. And then, like how you write campaign briefs or product launch briefs, or maybe like who needs to get involved. Even if the particular person's name is not there, maybe you will account for the resource and the manpower that needs to go into it. So based on that, maybe you can share like documents on upcoming launches or upcoming content. So maybe you have a marketing strategy in place that is a very large directive, but needs to be applied to very specific channels. Like, oh, I need 30 days of Instagram for this. This is what is happening in my company. So maybe you can create a custom GPT that you can go to every 2 weeks or maybe every 1 month to create like themes and, give you like all of the content that you need. Maybe you can have one to give you like the overview of the calendar. Maybe you can have a separate one to give you like unique social media, like posts and caption. Or maybe you can adapt this to make that full process and step by step. So there's lots of possibilities here because I know lots of you voted like for marketing and stuff earlier. Next one is, if you have any recurring service, maybe you want to create a proposal, but then you want to customize some parts of it based on your discussion, or maybe what might be suitable. Sometimes example is maybe I have like a custom website design service. This is what we do at Media House, but a website is a website and we have certain types of packages for website. But then for me to have a successful proposal, I feel like if I'm able to capture the idea of the business and talk about, what would success look like for them, what are the key things that they are thinking about, and how, based on just our regular process, it will be implemented and addressed. So we can customize it based on the different client profiles. We can also pull in previous profiles to teach the GPT like the structure and the tone based on how you want to use it. So this is super helpful if you have any certain types of recurring, like proposals. But at the same time, even if it's not a proposal, I know somebody was talking about like creating a recurring report. So let's say like another way that I've used it is we do lots of SEO audits for companies, and we have a very particular way of thinking through how we highlight them and how we give people a roadmap on how to approach doing their SEO. So while like one of it is looking at like getting like a big SEO technical audit that we use another software to do. And then we have a certain way of preparing the report. So what we'll do is we'll just feed like the output from the SEO audit software and then put it into the GPT based on the structure that we have, and it will automatically populate everything, and then it's automated. All I have to do is read through and then see if that makes sense. So it's super helpful for what you might need it. Yeah, the social media idea, again, you can build like, if you just want captions, or maybe you are heavy on creating like videos, so maybe you can just create a video scripter. At this stage, you might be asking, Anya, what's the difference between using this and using something that's already on the Explore page? Great question. Let's say you saw me using the weed, right? The weed video. I would not be able to save my, like, let's say for Hatch Media House, I have like, the overall, like, this is our vision, these are our values, this is our tone of voice. All of those documents I cannot save on the back end. I will just, like this issue of it didn't remember my context. I will keep running into that. So I need to keep re-uploading those documents, but at the same time, it might not remember. So using an external custom GPT that was made by somebody else will not solve that problem for me. So for me, because I know like for Media House, let's say it's an ongoing thing, it's an ongoing activity, it's not a one-time thing. So it just makes sense for me to create it in a way that works for our team and our internal processes. So the output is something that can go directly into some of our, project management systems, or maybe even directly into our content. And then the back end of it, we'll set up the input in such a way where we have written like a background on what is Hatch Media House, what are our goals, who's our target audience, so we can select all of them when we are creating some of the captions or maybe social media ideas. So if you are starting out, or maybe like you have struggles with generating content, or maybe you just want to capitalize on the custom GPT's capabilities, I think being able to vocalize and document some of your processes, or maybe like having like a written thing about who you are and what you do and what like the context of it, instead of repeating it over and over, just having a written thing that you can give on the back end as a document will be super helpful. Yeah, and this next one is an internal documentation generator. What that basically means is it's creating SOPs, it's creating documents that can be repeatedly used by people on your team. Maybe you have a lot of part-time staff or temporary staff, or maybe you have a guide on how to welcome people into your company, but a lot of it may not necessarily be documented in a repeatable way. But so you can just create a custom GPT talking about, what your organization is and how you'd like to capture it, give it the tone of voice. If you want to, some of these actions can even be tied to either like Google Slides or Canva slides if you want them documented there, or maybe even platforms like Notion and things like that. Or you can just, just copy it and paste it wherever you want at the end of it. But basically, you can just chat with it and tell it, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. Can you collate all of this? And every chat thread will be like basically you trying to document something. It's super useful if you find yourself constantly onboarding new people or new team members, but having to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So this can save time and also hold like, like this vision of you or your organization, and have like standardized internal processes, that GPT will save. So yeah, if you're an organization working on documentation, maybe creating this and asking all teams to use it so the output is the same format will be super helpful. And then this is where like the advanced automation comes in. I'll show you a little bit more later. But this is the one where, let's say, oh, like it summarizes your project updates and meeting minutes based on previous email threads or reports. So some of this, you might find that in project management or stakeholder management, you're constantly doing a lot of back and forth. And, some of you also like, oh, help me make sure that all my emails are read and things like that. So I think this is where you can streamline those processes, but this is a little bit of an advanced automation, mostly because just uploading documents and writing instructions is not enough. You need to connect it to some other action outside of ChatGPT, but that runs when it's doing the thread, and you need to make sure that when it's running that automation, ChatGPT is able to capture information that is structured in a certain format. What do I mean by structured in a certain format? In an email, the to is always an email address that is formatted a certain way, right? And then there's a question. Let me address that first. For internal documentation, how much of company confidential data will be at risk? Is it based on the amount of information that is shared during the documentation, during the customization? I would say err on the side of sharing as less as the customer of the confidential information. So maybe give it only as much as you need to, maybe 3 or 4 things. And then because it's generative, it will look at the 3 or 4 that you have that probably is the least risky for you. And, it's okay for it to be shared, or maybe use that that data to be trained on. So just remember, every time that you are giving something to ChatGPT, it will be using that to train on. So do not give it super sensitive information. So give it only like the bare minimum of what it needs. I would say in terms of processes, especially if it's like copyrighted, proprietary, trademarked, try not to share too much of it. If you need to, maybe even split it up into multiple processes. Or maybe in this case, custom GPT may not necessarily be the way. Maybe you need to explore a different type of automation workflow where information is flowing through in a secure way, and only the required amount is going into custom GPT to be either formatted or structured, or maybe not even. Like, for example, we do like low code, no code automation using tools like Zapier and Make.com. So you can just, use something else that will minimize how much of your company data is flowing through that's being trained on into custom GPT. So I would say try not to give a lot of confidential data. The stuff that I feel like is good to document is kind of like, hey, first day, welcome. Here's what you find. Here's what, how company values our messaging, like try the things that will help people to be on the same page. Or maybe it's more of like here's how you file receipts. Here's how you share complaints, or here's how you share where the bugs are. Or maybe here's what to do when you are planning for an event. Some of them are not that proprietary, but more like, SOPs. So I think those are more relevant. I hope that helps. So going back to this, the custom client, communication, you can have a little bit more where, like, in the chat thread, obviously we type and there's lots of different things happening. So ChatGPT needs to be able to extract out this email is exactly this, the body is this is the subject. But if, for example, if this is the case of looking at meeting minutes, and then deciding what to change on the project management software, it needs to be able to identify which project it is on the software. It needs to be able to identify like values like, oh, this is the date, and it needs to be structured this way to go into the software. Oh, this is the deadline. This needs to be structured this way to go into the software, and things like that. So this is what we call as capturing structured information. So in the advanced automation, we need to run it such that the custom GPT is able to identify this in the thread as you're chatting with it, and then passing that information to wherever you're running that action. So for example, you saw when we were doing the week.com, the video script, all I did was chat, and this is the script, and then it said running action. So during that running action, it's doing all of these back end things. So this is a little bit advanced. You don't necessarily need like a software engineer for this, but you do need to be more familiar with like low code, no code automation workflows. We have a separate I think workshop for that. Our team will share if you're interested to join that. So yeah. So we're gonna jump into creating custom GPT in just a short bit. But before we do that, I want to share, like, you know, we've run through this by now. You probably have caught on to this, but just to share, so we all have clarity. It's very helpful to have like a clear purpose to why you're creating this and identify the key tasks that you want to automate. And, you know, in the GPT world, it's not just a single, I want a social media caption. It's actually not one step. A social media caption means I need you to know who I am, what my company is, what my goals are, where my marketing is at currently, and what my preferred style and tone is. And then I want you to give me the caption. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, double step, triple step, and sometimes in between. So think about how you want to break down your task with clarity, because ChatGPT will struggle when it skips steps. And then gather the right data. The ideal format is putting it into PDF so it can read it, and format your data correctly. I'll give you a little bit of tips. And then when we set up the custom GPT, write clear instructions when you are giving it. Don't feel like you have to know the exact, you know, like instructions. Don't worry. You can always plan to refine it after you do it once and see how it feels like in action. So to define your goals, you want to specifically ask, like, what is the task or what is the process you want GPT to handle? Is it repetitive or time consuming or highly specialized? In this example that I will share later also, my example is that I want the GPT to help me write LinkedIn posts in my voice. So that's what we will try to create later. Okay. So having a core goal like that simple one step is a good starting point. And then you can slowly expand, refine, and make your way to the larger vision that you have. So it's okay to start small. In fact, do start small so that you can build on it. Okay. So think about like what repetitive tasks you're doing over and over that can be automated. We already did some parts of it earlier. Think also about where do you need a specialist, but you don't have one available. For example, like maybe you need like customer emails to answer in a specialized way, or maybe you repeatedly draft like social media captions, but you are not a marketer. So in my case, I chose to go with, oh, I really need to create LinkedIn captions, but it's so repeatable, like content is almost like I need to generate it regularly. So this is where you will start collecting things. This is where you can shape your context as well. You can start small, but then you can keep adding more as you have more to give, or as you identify more sources that you think is important. So here in this case, I'm going to collect my previous LinkedIn posts, so ChatGPT can use that as a reference. But then for you, depending on what the output that you're looking for, you can gather content like emails or reports or social media posts that represents the sort of work that you want ChatGPT to reference for you. The more examples and the more context you provide, the better the GPT can learn from your data. And yeah, structure these as PDFs so it can reference it, and try not to have like multiple files. So like give it very clear headings. So let's say maybe you have one file that says about Anya, you know, maybe that file will say, this is my background, this is my work, this is how my values, this is how, you know, things like that. These are my expertise. This is what I like to talk about in my LinkedIn. And this is the tone of voice. Maybe I describe it. Maybe I'll have another document that will say, these are the examples of my previous LinkedIn posts. So it can reference that. And then I can put that into ChatGPT. I can also reference like different types of LinkedIn, you know, like some people do very emotive storytelling. Some people do like, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and then they will have points. So you can gather different things and then maybe title it appropriately. So ChatGPT knows it's not for the tone of voice. So you will say examples of LinkedIn post structures, so that it will know that we're talking about LinkedIn post structures specifically. So whatever you need, ideally, you want to structure it inside with clear headlines. And then format your data correctly. Like if you need to put any labels on it, do put labels, have clear paragraphs, don't have excessive, like, poorly formatted things, like, take away all of the emoji unless it's necessary for the post. Think about, like, if ChatGPT is looking through it and it really doesn't use its common sense, will it really misinterpret or misunderstand? And try to group like data types similar together. So for example, if you are giving, maybe you want a custom GPT that writes in your voice. So you can group like your LinkedIn posts together in one document, your emails in another document, maybe the way you create scripts for social media content in another document. So it really understands that all of that is you, but then they're all different data types that are grouped together. So this helps it identify patterns in what you are giving it and deliver more accurate results or better results for that. And identify ones where it can really be a good data point, where you're like, yeah, this one really represents what I'm trying to show. And then you can feed that to ChatGPT in the structured data. One thing I want you to remember about custom GPTs is that the GPT cannot dynamically, meaning like without you having to re-upload, it cannot access new data. You have to manually re-upload and feed it new data and reconfigure it. So it cannot automatically like get it somewhere like, from the internet. Of course, it will know like industry knowledge because it's connected to the internet and the model is being trained actively, but your personal documents, it cannot dynamically update. So you cannot directly take from your Instagram feed. You need to structure it and feed it. Yeah. It may also struggle with super complex multi-step processes without you breaking it down into step-by-step instructions. You really must break down every single thing. Like you are very patiently training a new person. It's almost like that, it has no context whatsoever. So you really need to slow down in your instructions and say, like do this first and then this, do not go forward without these. If you do not have the answers, you need to re-clarify, things like that. So your instructions need to be clear. And that's where once you set up the first version and you try it out, you'll get a sense of, the instructions probably can be refined a little bit because it didn't work out the way I intended. And then you can have a hypothesis and keep refining it. And one thing is, the model may not always capture nuances perfectly. So keep trying, keep refining, make small increments, and then they will actually add on to like big increments. So this is where if you've been using specific prompts in your everyday work, pull them out and use them here and see how they work, but then think of it as like broader instructions that you can feed ChatGPT, especially if you've been like doing it over and over. So think through how you will ask the GPT to perform the task. Keep it simple, keep it super clear, but also keep it super specific to what you wanted. Very direct instructions are very helpful. And then like in this case, I start out with one task, which is the LinkedIn post. And then maybe once I try this GPT in the future, I can think about how the same GPT can be adapted for something similar because I already have the foundation for something like this. So then don't forget, at every stage, we just keep iterating and improving because the very first version that we create might not be the version that you end up using a lot. It might, in fact, come a little short of that, but that's okay. And that's the norm because that's where you identify, this is what the gap in the prompt was. So I'm going to change it a little bit this way and try it out again. So keep tweaking the instructions as you go. And if you need to, give it more context along the way for it to perform better. So now we're going to try out the LinkedIn thing that I said. Give me a minute. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm gonna go to my GPT. Okay, I have it. Let me reshare my screen. Okay, sharing. Can you all see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can, so I know you can see my screen. Okay, thank you. Awesome. So here, I'm gonna, if I want to create a GPT, I'm gonna go to create. And then here, this is where it says, hi, I'll help you build a new GPT. You can say something and then it will help configure it. So it's super helpful because to create a custom GPT, you start with a chat in the same way. So it's made super easy and simple to start with. And then you can go into the configure section and I'll run you through the different things and then we'll try it. So here there's going to be like an image and then you name your GPT. And then you give it a little short description, like every time you in the explore page, you saw short descriptions of what the GPT does. That's what it is. Instructions. So this is where they give you a prompt. What should this GPT do? How does it behave? What should it avoid doing? Say that's a really important one as well. And then conversation starters are basically, like when I start a new chat thread, I get 4 options to do something. That's essentially a conversation starter. And you can set up different conversation starters based on your own use cases. And then in the knowledge is where you can upload your file. So files will be used to shape the context of this GPT. And then the files will also be downloaded when code interpreter is enabled. So this is where like you will analyze data, work with files, do some math and stuff like that. So if you want this, keep this on, but also remember your data will be used in a certain way. So this is where APIs this GPT can use and create a new action. So this is very interesting because APIs are ways like softwares talk to each other and send data. So this GPT, essentially, I can be like, hey, go to Notion and make this. And I can set up that API using like a low code, no code tool. Maybe in this, I can set up like a, like I can go to Zapier and say, when you receive a ping from this GPT, I need you to take identify this project and then go to the tasks and add the line items that it's decided and put the date and the deadline and who is the person who's assigned. Like this is something that it can do, but you will just need to set it up on Zapier. And also, like I said, you need to be able to qualify like, oh, these are the structured data that I need to pass into this other software. So we need to be able to do things a little differently. So that's a little advanced, but for those of you who are interested, I have some resources to point to if you want to get your hands on try those things. So do reach out to me after this if you want that. For now, we're going to leave the actions part aside and we're going to use some of the other parts. So here we'll say, I want a GPT to help me create new LinkedIn posts based on any new ideas I have following my own tone of voice and style for my LinkedIn audience. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. I don't know why it didn't help me write LinkedIn posts. Let's see. So it will try to do its thing. It's okay that I missed out a second part of this. Don't worry, you'll get to see how we'll refine it. LinkedIn post creator sound. I'll say Anya's LinkedIn post creator because it's my voice, right? So I will say Anya's LinkedIn post creator. So you can see on the right side, it's already giving me like, oh, how can I like 4 starter prompts, right? Help me write a post to thank, write about an industry trend, craft a post to promote an upcoming webinar, something about, help me write about something recent. So I will say Anya's LinkedIn post creator. So it automatically updated the name, and it will say, it said it's trying to it's trying to create an image, but it could not. I'll just say, okay, create it later. So now on the right side is the preview. So it's not the live one. And then say, let's refine the way I helped you write posts. What do you want me to focus on, or what do you want to avoid when assisting? I like to ideate first, so I'll never skip this step. I use this to find story angles for my post and connect it to my lived experience. So give me prompts on how I can share some unique POV from my life. I also want to reference my own tone of voice. So again, it's updating. On the right side, it is the preview. So the preview keeps getting updated. It's a very small update. You've not seen it yet. Okay, so help you brainstorm story angles and prompts tied to your personal experience. What else should I keep in mind when assisting with your LinkedIn posts? I don't know yet. So for now, I'm just going to start a post. Okay, so I will say, I want to, okay, let's use one of the starter prompts. Help me brainstorm ideas about a recent lesson I learned. So it's giving me lots of prompts. And if you're the kind who likes prompts, so again, on the right side is still the preview. If you notice, I haven't hit create. It's still on the draft mode. If so, we can dive deeper to shape the post. Okay, 6. I'll choose 6. I created a custom chat GPT together with everybody on the session when I was hosting a workshop. Thought it was very nice as a collective group activity. So it's essentially what we are doing. Okay. If you ever see it like this and you can see that the post has finished, but it's not finished, you can just hit stop and then it goes in. So here's where it's a little undecided whether this is working for me yet or not. So at this point, I want to see, like, create it and try it out. So I'm just going to save some of these responses. So I will say create, right? And then as soon as you hit create, you can see it said it's got my account name. So it is, remember, this is a paid activity, I think, for paid accounts. So in the beginning, I'm just going to keep it to only me. When you say it will appear in the GPT store, it will really appear in the GPT store where we were on the explore page. Anyone with the link, this is where you can share it with your team or maybe somebody very specific like your customers or your clients. So for now, it will be only me. And then I will hit save. And try not to have really long chat threads when you are creating this chat GPT, because the right side is a preview. And then it won't really have like the chat threads saved. So I'll click View GPT. You tell me if you're able to access it. Okay, so here we're going to try out. Can we ask it to refer to our other social media posts and use them to create LinkedIn posts? Absolutely. You can, but you need to still have a way for it to access your other social media post. So maybe in the instructions, you say, instead of saying, I want to brainstorm, that's where you will say, I'm gonna give you another social media post. It's either going to be a screenshot or a PDF, or maybe just copy pasted words that I need your help to create a LinkedIn post for. And then you give it more instructions on, like how you want it to shapeshift, or should it shapeshift at all. Just link to the post work. I don't think ChatGPT can access Instagram, but we will try. Let's see. Are you okay if I share a link to one of your posts, Juina? Okay, let's go to Juina's Instagram. Are you all seeing my full screen? Are you seeing that I'm on Instagram now? Juina. Okay. I'm not sure. Okay, so Juvina is a traveler and has very interesting travel stories, and you can check her out. So I'm going to assume that Juvina, your primary platform is Instagram, and you want to cross-post it to maybe LinkedIn. So I'm going to take this post and say, I want to create a LinkedIn post based on this post I made on Instagram. So oftentimes custom GPTs may not necessarily browse the web automatically, in which case you have to put in the instructions to browse the web. So it will not be able to access Instagram posts. So here is where I'm just going to take a screenshot of it, and then we'll see if it does any better. Let me see. I have to move my Zoom things out of the way. Okay, I'm going to take this screenshot and go back. So here's where I can upload. So if you have Google Drive and maybe you're sharing all of your posts on, like in a Google Sheet or something, you can upload it from there directly. So maybe like you're making it easier to do. So here I have Jumina's post. I'm going to assume that, that is me. And then say, this is the post. Let's see. So it's a heavy post, just a little bit of a trigger warning. But as you can see, it's taken these words and try to shape it. And I would say it's too short, right? And I would say it's too short. So this is where if you have like a preferred like style of how you write and share the story, you should be uploading it as examples that it can reference to. This is like a starting point again. And then I actually don't know how different it is. Let's see. Honored to have second place without his influence, his motto. He wasn't just about motorcycles. What fuels your journey? Okay. I often ask myself, what fuels your journey? Okay, so let's try to make some changes to this GPT. Let's go back. Let's give it, like, I actually have a file that I have prepared. It's called Anya's LinkedIn, where I will share with you. It's very simple, basically like examples of my own LinkedIn posts that I have collated, just for you to see. You're able to see my document? Yes? So I just created a very, very simple document, and you can see I've titled it Anya's LinkedIn post, and I've given like example 1, example 2, example 3. So you can see how I write my posts. I'm going to assume that I want the output to be structured this way. So I have not done a lot. I've only written I've only given it 5 posts, and that's it. Okay, so let's see if it will learn from this. I'm going to reshare my ChatGPT screen. Give me one moment. Yeah, okay. So I'm back. I'm going to go into the configure section, and here is where I'm going to upload the file where I have prepared and say, yeah, I've uploaded it, and I'll say, did it save? Yeah, it is saved. And in the instructions, I will actually add, you can see ChatGPT has given its own instructions based on my chat. It says, helps users write engaging professional LinkedIn posts through ideation, offering thought-provoking prompts. After gathering ideas, it assists in crafting clear, concise, impactful content, aligning with the user's tone of voice. The goal is to maintain a professional tone, but with personal flair. Please use Anya LinkedIn PDF as a reference for the tone of voice and copy post structure. So here, because it tone of voice, it will conflict. It's two conflicting opinions. So I will say by referencing examples. Okay, so I will say update. So one thing to note is after I've updated, I need to start a new thread. So I'll just update again for good measure. Okay, let's go to view GPT. And then here again, I will say, now I'm gonna just directly upload the screenshot from Joanna's post, okay? Right, LinkedIn post for this. I made this for Instagram. So you can see it's a little different from the previous format because some of my references included emojis. So it's trying to reference it back here. And then it says this. So again, I think it becomes a little personal when you are trying to write on your own. So the type of tweaks that you might be looking for is kind of like tone of voice, or maybe like write a call to action at the end. You know, there might be tone of voice that really needs to align. So like tweaking some of the wordings around how it needs to be used and things like that is important here. That's where you will really improve the quality of your output. So if you notice like here, it included like a call to action. It will be super helpful if you can give it examples of how you would write it or in the the knowledge database. Other things that I can also share is like maybe I will do a little bio write-up about myself. I know like maybe how I view the world or the values and how I write or approach creating stories and things like that in this case. But for most purposes, this should work. The final thing that I would try reading is, I like this. Can you help me write a Instagram Reels script for this with a hook at the beginning. So this is where it's not trained to do this, but we are trying to go into like a adaptation, you know, slightly adjacent to it, which is possible to shapeshift the same thing, given that you already have fed it context about me, right? So here, again, if you notice, it's sticking true to the main, like what fuels your journey, which comes from original, like Jumina's post at the bottom. It says what fuels your journey. And then it just made this. What do you think? Is this something that you would try out for yourself or maybe for your organization to create LinkedIn posts? And something very interesting also from here is I can even try to force it to do something. It's not meant to be like this. It's supposed to be a specialist, but I can say, can you help me create a content? Not the same story, but maybe with prompts for me to share stories for the next week. So like, you know, if you're ever feeling like I need a little bit more ideas, I already gave it a prompt on what I'm going to create. So it's going to take that same theme. And if you see how it's going and suggesting like what I can create from there. So this is super useful because some of you might be working on like campaigns or maybe monthly or weekly themes. And that's where you can use it, start a thread, and maybe the next thread you start, it will give you very different ideas because what you started the thread with is very important. So then you can say, oh, okay, share a story of one of your most memorable adventures, mentor's wisdom, share a piece of advice. So all of this is super helpful, and you can keep sharing and shaping in the same conversation, and it will just help you adapt in the same thread. Any questions in the chat? We are close to wrapping up for today, so I'm wondering if you have any questions. Or maybe like, you know, any thoughts coming to your mind? Was this useful? Does this inspire you? Are you looking forward to trying? It's pretty straightforward. You can keep iterating. You saw how easy it was to go back and change some instructions. It's just as easy to go back and add more context. What are you curious to try? And for example, the receipts, it's the same thing. You would just say, I'm going to take a picture of my receipt and then I'm going to upload it to the GPT, and I want it to output in, you know, just describe like the format that you need it in, and then it will give it to you. Or maybe you wanted to ask follow-up questions so it can give it to you in the format that you need. The project management, same thing. Maybe you will say like, I'm gonna give meeting summary notes, following which I want you to give the meeting summary and next steps in this format, and then you upload the knowledge base. So hopefully all of these are gonna set you up, and I'm excited to see what you all try. And with that, we are close to the end of today's session. So if you don't have any other questions, maybe we will wrap up today's session. Can you all see my screen? Yes. So today we explored like how to spot automation opportunities and explore different like custom GPTs and try creating it together. I'd love to see if you have like any reflections at the end of today, and how today's session was as a way to wrap up the session. I'll give you just a short bit. If you're still on Menti, go to menti.com and use the code 27014465. So a custom GPT would be fairly similar to your regular chat GPT, except it has the memory because of the knowledge base and instructions already set up for you to use. I hope you get to try some of these out. Do write in to us and share if you have anything that you created that worked really well for you, or maybe you just want to share and share the joy. I'm wishing you all the best. Thank you all for sharing, and from Hatch Media House, thank you so much for joining today's session. We're committed to supporting your journey every step of the way. If you'd like to check us out, you can go to mediahouse.hatch.sg. Otherwise, you can reach out to me, you can say hello, or you can share what you created, and you can meet me at my LinkedIn, or maybe you can reach out at any of the other things. But with that, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a happy Friday, and I hope you have a good weekend ahead. I will see you all soon at another one of the sessions. There's quite a lot going on, so do join in. A lot of these sessions are curated especially for you to learn some of these tricks and tools for you to incorporate into your work, and we are hoping you get to do more of these. Thank you so much. We've arrived at the end. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.